So great pleasure to introduce Max Ringelheim, who is here from Miami, Florida.
Yes.
And is a UB grad who you're going to talk all about your experience here at UB. But one thing I learned about you today is you're a big fan of the buffalo chicken wraps here in the student union.
Come on, there's other fans of buffalo chicken wraps here, right? Come on.
Difficult thing to order. We have apps and we order these things on. It's very different. But do you want to?
Yeah, take it away.
All right.
Cool, let's do it. What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing today? Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Thanks for allowing me to speak to y'all. I can't wait. My name is Max Ringelheim. I graduated from the University of Buffalo in May of 2011. Got some familiar faces here. Martin Cass-Stevens, a mentor of mine back in my undergrad days, that has helped me set myself up for the entrepreneurial path you'll learn a little bit more about today. But I'm really, really excited to be here and to basically engage you guys in a really awesome workshop I'm going to be hosting today. It's called When Going Viral, The Rise and Fall of the Hoverboard. I assume some of you guys here in this room are familiar with those hoverboard devices, right? Yes, the ones that started blowing up and catching fire. Okay, yes. So I was the guy that was responsible for starting that product fad, along with two other co-founders of mine back in 2015. And you are going to learn about the rise and fall of that said venture of mine through a really interactive, fun, high-energy workshop. So all of you guys are going to be engaged in the presentation. It's going to be really freaking awesome. And without further ado, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. All right. So for an agenda for today, I'll give you a quick background on myself. We're going to go into the introduction of the hoverboard story. We're then going to talk about the viral traction that this product and company of mine experienced. Followed by that, we're going to have these two breakout sessions. Okay, they're cliffhanger moments where I'm going to leave you guys faced with having to put yourself in my shoes back during this hoverboard experience of mine, okay? I'm gonna pose these really challenging questions that you're gonna get like 5 minutes in groups to work on. And Tom, the teams are in groups right now, right? Or is everyone sort of in their groups, or?
You know, I put together groups and I do it organically, form groups at the table.
Okay, I mean, I'm cool with organic, you're cool with organic, so beautiful, awesome. And very simply, we'll then, as we go through both of those breakout sessions, we'll talk about how the story ultimately ended up unfolding, the lessons learned from it, any Q&A that we have at the end, all right? It's gonna be really awesome. Beautiful. So in terms of who am I? First and foremost, I'm 31 years old. I live in Miami, Florida. I'm a born and bred New Yorker though, originally from Long Island, New York, if any of you are familiar with the Long Beach area. And I basically became addicted to entrepreneurship back in college. As Martin Cass-Stevens knows, raise your hand, Martin, so everyone knows. Maybe the smartest guy in the room here, guys. So if you want good answers to the questions, I gravitate towards Martin. But very simply, I became addicted to entrepreneurship while at University at Buffalo through the Panache competition. For any of you guys that are familiar with it, it's this really awesome business plan competition here at Buffalo that for all of you who are in an entrepreneurship-focused class, I would strongly, strongly suggest you at a bare minimum take a look at the competition, see how maybe you can get involved with it. And you know, very simply, after winning $10,000 in the Panache competition in May 2012, I was lucky enough to work on a video conferencing software company called Vonvo.com, which you're seeing along the right-hand side. It was kind of like a hybrid of Google Hangouts meets Kickstarter, you can think of it as. And then in 2015 is when I had the opportunity to co-found what was 2015's most popular hoverboard brand called Funky Dope, okay? So, with a little quick icebreaker, by a show of hands, how many people here in the class today have ever dreamed of starting a company, or maybe have actually started a company, or been responsible for maybe launching a new product or a campaign? By a show of hands, how many of you have ever had that opportunity? Awesome, keep your hands raised, keep your hands raised. Of everyone with their hands up, right? How many of you maybe hoped and wished and dream that, you know, this product or campaign or company might just go viral, right? I assume most of you guys have your hands up still, right? Okay, well guess what? I'm here today, guys, to tell you that sometimes going viral fucking sucks, okay? And I really mean it. Sometimes it can really backfire, as you'll learn today during the story. It can have some really, really awesome highs, but some pretty crappy lows, okay? However, my friends, if the proper planning is done to allow for virality to thrive, it can be absolutely awesome, okay? And that's what, as you might guess, is some of what this workshop is going to entail, and today's class is going to entail, okay? But without further ado, are you guys ready to get this party started? Okay? It's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be a little bit of a roller coaster. You guys ready? Buckle up. All right, let's do it. Okay, so how did it all get started? Well, it all got started back in October of 2014 during the Canton Fair in Guangzhou, China, okay? You might be able to see in the background, looks like there's like a big trade show fair happening in the background of the slide, right? That is a snapshot of what happens at the Canton Fair. It's one of these massive trade shows in China, okay? Where you have hundreds, if not thousands of vendors, right? Selling all different types of cool products and the like. And you know, my two soon-to-be roommates and the founders were over in China looking for new products for their mobile accessories company. They had a company that sold like iPhone cases, earbuds, and they were in China looking for new products for this mobile accessories company, okay? And they're walking around this trade show floor, and they're looking for new products, right? And lo and behold, they stumble across this hoverboard-looking device, right? It wasn't called a hoverboard at that point, but this two-wheeled device that everyone was, you know, that this particular vendor was showcasing at their booth. And they instantly fall in love with it, okay? Like, instantly. They just love at first glance, right? Like Cupid's arrow type of shit, okay? And they absolutely fall in love with it. And they decide, as you can imagine, right, as they were looking for new products to sell here in the States, they decided to purchase a couple of hoverboard units and bring them back to the US, to Queens, New York, where I was going to be living with them and, you know, as you're going to learn shortly, starting this business with them. So, well, what happens next? We're going to fast forward a little bit. From November 2014 through like February 2015, you know, these two friends of mine, they come back here to the States with these hoverboards. They show me the product, like, Max, get rid of that video conferencing software company, man. You know, it's not working out. Come and, you know, start this hoverboard business with us, right? It's gonna be freaking awesome. Look at this thing. And I look at the product and I'm equally fascinated by it, right? Like this two-wheel device, there's no handlebars, you just put your feet on it and you go, right? It was freaking awesome. And so I also become fascinated with it and think that it can be huge, okay? And so what do I decide to do? Well, I decide to leave on, okay? I leave in January 2015. I decide to partner up with these two friends of mine, move in with them into their apartment in Queens, New York. And, you know, we start strategizing on the launch plans of this magical device. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, like magical device that no one had ever seen before here in the States. And, you know, during this sort of 3-month, 4-month time period, we moved the company, what was in our basement of our apartment in Queens, New York, we moved it into a larger office on Long Island. At the same time, here's what happens, guys. Every time we ride this frickin' hoverboard around, people's jaws just drop. They are like driving in their car and they see us like riding along on our hoverboard and they just like stop in the middle of the road to try and understand what the hell we're doing. Like riding this thing, how we're like basically floating along on the streets on this hoverboard device without any effort whatsoever, and they're just astonished by it, right? And we started to notice this time after time, that people were just consistently just engaged and enthralled in this product of ours that we were riding around on, okay? And so what happens next? Well, my friends, what happens next is we get to March, April 2015, and we have these lovely ladies in the background of our slide here who, you know, start to get involved in our business. Here's how. The founders, my two roommates, they take a trip out to California. And they're out in California actually at a little retail trade show event. And it was actually, in fact, with a store that had taken a liking to our hoverboard product when they saw us featuring it at a particular trade show. And so they're out in California for a week, and they serendipitously meet this guy named Dave. I kid you not, okay? They meet this guy completely randomly in the parking lot of this retail store named Dave. And Dave, guys, is friends with every celebrity on the planet, okay? I kid you not. Like when I say Dave is best friends with everyone you can imagine, whether it's LeBron or your, you know, D-status, you know, TikTok celebrity, or at the time it was Vine that was really killing it, okay? He is friends with everyone, okay? And Dave sees this product, and he absolutely falls in love with it as well, okay? You're catching the trend, right? People are pretty enthralled by the product, right? He absolutely falls in love with the product. My 2 roommates, they stay out in California for the week. They hang out with Dave a little bit more. They get to know him a bit better. They see that he's super legit. Go out to a couple of parties with him. And once my 2 roommates get back to Queens, New York, guess what? There's all of a sudden a serious rumor that Kendall Jenner from the Kardashian family wants one of our hoverboards. So what do you think happens then? Well, we get super. You're calling up Border Patrol, you said, right?
I said Border Patrol are coming dangerous products into the U.S.
Okay.
The citizens.
Okay. Okay. So we're, just brute force storming the Customs Agency, CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Commission, get all this crap out of here.
Yeah.
We're legit. That's what we're doing. Okay. I love it. I love it. It's ferocious. It's a good ferocious strategy there. What do you got?
For the second one, we said probably hire employees to help you fulfill the demand that's going on,
Yep.
and then be really careful who to select, because you already gave out enough for those free
Yep.
products,
Yep.
and you kind of want to fulfill the customer because they are paying for it.
Yep.
So they're gonna be mad if they don't receive it.
Oh, they're going to be really mad. You're going to learn about how mad they are in a second.
Other ones are they can wait because it's a free gift.
Yeah. Anyone have anything else different that they want to share? Go ahead.
I was just thinking about taking the route of, in regards to the second question
Yes.
specifically, taking the route of, something like Supreme where you market yourself as like a product with scarcity, and because you already have a lot of demand, and you can just, because you're already a premium product too,
Yep.
you can just market it as like a limited drop, and
Yep.
then you can do sections of limited drop, at
Okay.
specific times.
So sort of like staggering out
Yeah.
when you sell this product, right?
Yeah.
Like we're the premium guys, so we only sell these 2 weeks out every month, right? And then you gotta wait till and if you're buying the other crap,
Yeah.
you can buy it any day of the week, but it's crap.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I don't know if I've ever really heard that. That's good. That's an interesting approach right there. Very cool. Do you guys want to hear what happens next, or you're not interested?
Hello.
Yeah, you did. Okay. Sure. I'm just kidding. Okay, cool. Well, what happens next is the following, guys. Those China problems that we were speaking about before, they not only persist, they worsen, and they worsen dramatically. Someone before was asking me about time frame of receiving products. Well, our factory guys was just straight up lying to us, lying to our faces. They would say your products are coming on this day, and they're coming on that day, and then they're coming on that day. So much so that on average, the delay in shipment from the time that they told us to when it actually showed up in our office, at a minimum, was 4 weeks of delay. Okay? 4 weeks. We're waiting a full month before anything shows up in our office from the previous day they had told us. Is that clear? Okay. Not only that, but guess what? China's on the other side of the planet. Okay? Freaking 12-hour time zone differences. So our 9 a.m. is their 9 p.m. and their 9 p.m. is our 9 a.m. All that gets really, really challenging when they're only available at their 2 p.m. Oh, so that's our 2 in the morning. Right. That's helpful. Okay. On top of that, incomprehensible discussions, conversations, trying to figure out where our inventory is. Okay. WhatsApp conversations, Skype conversations over text, over Audible, which is like completely just an absolute struggle to have these types of conversations with them and figure out where our inventory is. Right? Okay. Guess what? It doesn't stop there. Because what else happens? Who said angry customers? You did. Angry customers, like this fantastic individual. Why did we have such angry customers? Well, we had what are called early adopter customers. You guys probably heard of that term before, right? Early adopter customers. These customers crave owning the product now. They don't want to wait. They're early adopters for a reason. They outlaid $1,500 for a reason. They want to tell all their boys and all their friends that they got a Funky Duck hoverboard before anyone else did, right? You know those types of people that are really into that stuff. So they don't give a shit that we screwed up our fulfillment inventory purposes, issues, right? Think they really care? They're gonna call us yelling and screaming, just like this guy in the background, because they want their $1,500 Funky Duck hoverboard now. Okay? What else happens next? Well, we started to get customer disputes, real customer disputes. We are collecting funds off of people's credit cards. Someone mentioned pre-order earlier, okay? That would have maybe been a way to stopgap this, okay? But we were collecting funds off of people's credit cards immediately. Yet, we don't have the adequate inventory to fulfill these said orders within, let's call it a 3 to 5 day period, right? And without the product to fulfill orders, all of a sudden we've got some real serious fulfillment, inventory complications starting to take place that are really nasty and annoying to get out of, okay? Like, you don't want to be in those situations, they suck. And what happens? Well, 4 weeks go by, because we have this 4-week delay, and these real, honest, early adopter customers, they still don't have their funky duck. So what do? They call up Amex or Visa and they say, hey, I ordered this $1,500 device from these guys, Funky Duck. It doesn't come, I'd like my money back. And what do the credit card companies do? They just issue it as fraud and they give you your money back, right? How are we doing on time, by the way? Quickly, or actually, okay, cool, we've got some time. What happens next? Not only real customers start disputing, but we have fake, fraudulent customers starting to hit us up. And what do you think happens here? Well, these fake online fraudsters started infiltrating our website and stealing honest people's credit cards, just like all of you here in this room, and stealing it without you even knowing it. And so what happens when your credit card gets compromised or someone, frauds you? Well, in 4 weeks, you've got this nice guy in the background who gets his credit card statement in the mail, and it says a $1,500 Funky Duck on it. And the honest, person whose credit cards got stolen is like, what the hell is that? Right? And what do? They call up their credit card company and they say, I don't know what this $1,500 hoverboard purchase from Funky Duck is, but I would like my money back, please, because I never transacted this payment. I don't even know what the hell this is. Okay? So they start disputing the payments. And what happens when that happens? Well, it's a pretty shitty situation because we lose out on those $1,500 of funds that we thought was real, but in fact it was fake, right? That's one bad thing. That's the money that was liquid funds in our bank, like the sort of working capital. You've probably heard that term, right? That's like our cash flows that we're going to be leveraging in the future. That's now all of a sudden gone. And we shipped the units that were so precious gold to fraudsters, right? Oh my gosh, you said, oh my gosh. Yeah, I know that. So we shipped the unit to a fraudster at a fake address, right? Or the actual address of a fraudster. Meanwhile, 4 weeks later, the customer whose credit card was stolen goes ahead and disputes the payment and we're out the money. Okay. You might think it stops there. It doesn't. Because guess what happens next? There were all these disputes coming in, left and right. And guess what? The banks and the credit card companies that fund these said transactions, right, and do all the stuff in the back end magic, right, for you to be able to buy things, they don't like disputes. And when you have too many disputes, guess what happens? Your account gets suspended. And then when your account gets suspended, what happens? Your funds in the bank get frozen. Why? Because when you sign that contract with the bank, there's all those terms and conditions that no one ever reads, right? Well, guess what? In those terms and conditions, there's a clause that says, if you have too many fraudulent payments or too many disputes, we have the right to freeze your money. You can't touch it, anything, for a minimum of 6 months. Okay? So the banks froze at one point over $1 million worth of what was previously liquid funds that we thought we had that was all of a sudden frozen by the bank, right? Pretty unbelievable. Okay, so let's bring this thing back home, this presentation back home. What ended up happening? Well, you might recall, someone I think at that table over there asked about the fires and the batteries and stuff. Guess what? Those same knockoff hoverboards that were infiltrating the market, that were showing up on Alibaba and everything for super inexpensive rates, they started having battery malfunctions. They started catching on fire. Mike Tyson almost broke his back riding on one, as one of you guys mentioned, right? Because they didn't really turn very well. They were one of the patents that we had with our device was a very smooth sailing turning functionality, whereas some of these cheap knockoffs that were being built in China with crappy batteries had some turning malfunction issues. And so it triggered an enormous amount of negative publicity by holiday season 2015. You might recall, home burns down due to exploding hoverboard, or person gets sent to the hospital due to, exploding hoverboard, whatever it might be. And then in Q1 2016, guess what happens? The government stepped in and banned the device. Why? Because of all these exploding hoverboards happening everywhere. they were like, what the hell is going on? This product, this global phenomenon is just taking over, yet people are like losing their homes, going to the hospital because of them. Like, we gotta like, you know, iron fist, put a clamp on this thing before this gets way too out of control, because it was like the wild, wild west. And so after that happened, FedEx stopped allowing you to ship the product, right? Because they deemed the product unsafe. They didn't want a battery exploding midair, right? That would be bad. So they banned it, the government banned it, and I came to grips with the fact that this product was just a fad. And after 14 months, I left the company, right? About 6 months after I left, some of the other employees left the company. And then, ironically enough, nutty enough, some of our hoverboards were stored in a warehouse. That warehouse just happened to go on fire one day. So like, just everything just completely went to crap. And you might be asking, well, how could this happen to us, right? How could it happen to us? Well, let's go over some of those lessons learned. Well, the first thing to cover is the concept of the first mover advantage. The first mover advantage is the following. We were first to market with the product. We were the ones that created this tidal wave of viral traction, right? And as a result of creating that tidal wave of massive traffic, of traction, it resulted in massive amounts of web traffic coming to our website through all the influencers and the CNBCs and the Yahoo, business news covering our company. And even though it's only a sliver or a slice of that web traffic that are the fraudsters, there's a huge number of people that all of a sudden, even that sliver that are coming to our website, who are fraudulent online web visitors, right? And they're out there just stealing people's credit cards left and right. That's what they do. And they would come and infiltrate our website, and we became a serious target for the fraudsters. Why? Because when Kendall Jenner is riding around in a funky duck and not the Joe Schmo, cheap. Everyone, how we doing?
Yep.
Chilling? Having a good day? Yep. Yeah? Awesome, awesome. I'm really excited to be here speaking to y'all today. Really excited.
Can I do one thing?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So we have a videographer here who Max has brought in. He is building a speaking business and wants to have an exhibit of what he's doing. So
Yeah.
if you're curious about that, that's what's going on. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
Is that all good? Everyone cool? Just a couple photos. Awesome, awesome. So, my name is Max Ringelheim. It's a pleasure to meet everyone here today. Thank you so much for having me, Tom, to allow me to teach your awesome students here at University of Buffalo. As Tom mentioned, I graduated from University of Buffalo May 2011. And for today's class, we are going to be going on a crazy roller coaster ride, okay? So you're gonna buckle up. It's gonna be really, really fun. It's gonna be really engaging, high energy. Okay, you guys are going to be involved in starting 2015's #1 hoverboard brand. You guys remember those hoverboard devices that everyone was riding around on, right? Yes, the ones that started exploding and catching fire and all that shit, right? Remember that? Okay. Well, believe it or not, I was one of the co-founders of that hoverboard movement. I started a super, super popular brand called Funky Duck back in 2015 that was the #1 brand in the world for hoverboard at the time. And without further ado, if you guys are cool with it, we're going to jump into today's workshop, and it's going to be freaking awesome. And the last class of Tom's I was here really enjoyed it, so I'm optimistic you guys will too. Does that sound good?
Yep.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Buckle up. Let's do it. Okay. So, for a quick agenda, I'll start with giving you a quick background on myself, okay? Followed by, we're going to do an introduction into the hoverboard story. We're then going to talk about the viral traction that my company Funky Duck and this product, the hoverboard, experienced. Then we're going to get into these 2 cliffhanger breakout sessions, okay? What are the cliffhanger breakout sessions? Very simply, you're going to be taken on the journey of starting Funky Duck, this hoverboard business. And when we get to mission critical moments in the story, where there are key questions that have to be answered, I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. You guys are going to have to try and figure out the answers to these extremely challenging business questions, okay? There's going to be 2 of those. Then I'm going to tell you how the whole story unfolds, the lessons learned from it, and then at the end, there'll be some Q&A. I have a short little survey for you guys to fill out, and it's going to be freaking awesome. Sound good? Okay. So, you guys are asking maybe, who am I? So, let me tell you. I'm 31 years old. I'm from Long Island, New York. Any Long Islanders here? Yeah, a couple, 1, 2, okay. I'm from the Long Beach, Long Island area. And I graduated from University of Buffalo in May of 2011. And while I was in school, I became addicted to entrepreneurship. You guys are in entrepreneurship class, right? So maybe some of you have caught the bug, or you're sort of developing symptoms for the bug, whatever it might be. No COVID pun intended there, of course. And very simply, when it comes to this addiction that I got for entrepreneurship, it started with a competition here at Buffalo called the Panache competition. You guys have heard of that maybe? Yes? Cool. Awesome. So I entered that competition 3 times, twice as undergrad, once right after graduating, the year after graduating. I started a video conferencing software company with $10,000 that I won from the Panache competition in May 2012. And ultimately, it was called Vonvo.com. That's actually a quick little photo of what that software looked like. It was kind of like a hybrid of Google Hangouts meets Kickstarter, you could think of it as, right? And then, after working on that company for 3.5 years, I decided to kind of bury the company in the graveyard. It just wasn't working out the way I was hoping it would, right? And that's when I got involved in the hoverboard industry. And that involvement was co-founding what was literally 2015's #1 hoverboard brand called Funky Duck, and what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Sound good? Okay. So, quick little icebreaker I'd like to start off with. How many of you guys here in the room, by a show of hands, have ever dreamed of maybe starting a company or being responsible for launching a new product or campaign? Any people here in the room have ever had that opportunity? Beautiful. Keep your hands raised. Keep your hands raised. Of those of you with your hands raised, how many of you maybe hoped, wished, dreamed of, maybe you even prayed, right, about this company or product going viral? I assume most of you guys are going to keep your hands up, right? Well, I am here today, friends, to tell you that sometimes going viral really fucking sucks, okay? And there's a reason for that. The reason is that if the proper planning is not conducted that will allow for virality to thrive, okay, you unfortunately, or to that extent, ultimately if you do the proper planning to allow for virality to thrive, it can be really freaking awesome. But in the extent where ultimately, in this case you're going to learn shortly, with Funky Duck and the hoverboard, it can absolutely freaking suck, okay? So, without further ado, are you guys ready for hearing this awesome story? Ready to go? Ready to rock and roll? Okay, let's do it. So, in terms of how this company all got started, let's go all the way back to October 2014. What were you guys doing in October 2014? I'm just kidding. No. Okay, basically, we were over in Guangzhou, China, okay, over at what's called the Canton Fair. Have any of you in the audience ever heard of CES in Las Vegas?
Yep.
Yep, cool, okay, that's the Consumer Electronics Show. Think of the Canton Fair in Guangzhou, China as the equivalent of CES in Las Vegas, but over in China. And my 2 founders, soon-to-be roommates, they're in China, and they're looking for new products for their mobile accessories company. They were selling previously, prior to October 2014, things like cell phone cases, earbuds, cell phone chargers, and they were in China looking for new products for this mobile accessories company. And they randomly discovered the hoverboard, walking the show floor, and they instantly fall in love with it. Like, there's just a booth, like you're seeing in the back of the picture there, that had these hoverboards. It was the patent owner, manufacturer of this device. They're walking around the trade show, they stumble upon it, they absolutely fall in love with it, okay? They put their feet on it, they can't take their freaking feet off it, okay? It was like freaking Cupid's arrow type of love, okay? That's how addicted they got to this product right when they saw it. And what they decided to do was purchase a couple of the units, after of course taking their feet off of it, and they decided to bring a couple of those units back to Queens, New York, where they were living, okay? And, we'll fast forward through a couple of months here, but very simply, from November 2014 through February 2015, the following happens, right? So I'm getting ready to maybe think about moving on from that video conferencing company, Vonvo, and my friends, my 2 soon-to-be roommates come back to the States, they show me the product, and I'm instantly fascinated by it as well, right? Like, this is the coolest thing ever. This thing is freaking awesome. And I instantly think it'd be huge. And so I decided to actually, kind of break up with Vonvo, right? It was a rough breakup. I decided to break up with Vonvo. And in January 2015, I officially left that company and kind of buried it in the graveyard. I decided to partner up and move in with these two friends of mine and begin to start strategizing on the launch of this hoverboard business, okay? So we're strategizing on launch plans. We were working out of our basement of our apartment in Queens, New York. We decided, we'll move the company into a larger office, right? Let's move into a larger office, have more space. These hoverboards are pretty big, right? They're pretty heavy, they're in these big boxes. We need more space to have inventory and all that, right? So we moved the company into a larger office on Long Island. And guys, I kid you not, every time we ride around on this freaking hoverboard, okay, people's jaws drop, okay? People will be driving on the main road in their car, and they see us floating along on our hoverboard, and they will stop in mid-traffic just to admire what the hell we're doing. They're just like, what the F are you doing? How are you doing what you're doing? How are you gliding so effortlessly, like on this weird-ass device that has no handlebars and like just looking like you're not trying or anything? And so people's jaws would just absolutely drop, okay? And so at that point, we get to March, April 2015. And we get this interesting opportunity to work with the lovely family featured in the slide here in the background, the Kardashian family. And what exactly happens? Well, I'll tell you. The founders, my two roommates, right? They take a business trip out to California. Okay, they're in Los Angeles. They're in town for like a small retail trade show with a store that had taken a liking to our hoverboard. And they're in California for a week. And I kid you not, guys, they serendipitously meet this guy, Dave, in the parking lot of this retail store, okay? They meet this guy, Dave, and when I say Dave is best friends with every freaking celebrity on the planet, I genuinely mean he is literally connected, best friends with every freaking celebrity on the planet. And when Dave sees this hoverboard device, what do you think happens? He falls instantly in love with it as well, okay? And Dave is like, guys, this is gonna be the coolest thing ever. Like, maybe I should get into some of these different celebrities' hands. I know all these celebrities. My two roommates hang out with him for a week. They get associated with him, get acclimated with him, and ultimately, once my two roommates get back to Queens, New York, they see he's legit. Dave is legit, okay? They vet him for like a week. They hang out with him, they party with him, all this stuff. By the time they get back to Queens, New York, there is serious rumor from Dave that Kendall Jenner wants one of our hoverboards. Okay? So what do you think happens next? Well, what happens next, friends, is we get super freaking excited. Like Will Ferrell in Elf excited. Who has seen that movie, please, by a show of hands? Okay, yes. That's how freaking excited we got, okay? Kendall Jenner wants to promote us? Are you freaking kidding me? Like our little baby company, baby product out in Long Island, New York, what? People would kill to have this kind of promotion. Okay? Entrepreneurs specifically would kill to have this type of promotion, right? And guess what? What's the best part? It's only going to require giving Kendall one free hoverboard. That's it. That's all she's requesting. She sees the product, she thinks it's awesome. She wants one free hoverboard. And she's freaking excited, right? Like, Will Ferrell in Elf excited. Who has seen that movie, right? That's how excited we start getting about this opportunity, right? Kendall Jenner wants to promote us, our like little, hoverboard brand out on Long Island, New York. Like what? So we're super excited by the news, okay? And people would absolutely kill for this type of promotion, right? And the best news about it, she's not asking for like $1 million from us. She's asking for one free hoverboard, and she will work with us and promote our company for one free hoverboard. That's it. And so although we're not like officially launched yet, okay, like we're still in the early infancy of the business, we just created like a website, we had some units, about 24 units in stock, so we had some units to ship out if we needed. But we're not like quote unquote officially launched yet, but we're super excited by this opportunity. So what happens next is we start to think, well, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna work with Kendall Jenner? Should we do it? The things that we were thinking about at the time were influencer marketing, this is back in 2015, so maybe not as super familiar as the term is these days, but we start thinking, wow, this could be really a great go-to-market strategy for this product. Getting the product in different celebrities' hands, that could be a really effective go-to-market strategy. And Kendall's following at this point is one of the largest in the world, over 50 million followers at the time. And the opportunity to work with Kendall at essentially zero cost, right? We're just thinking like this could be too good to be true, / like, is this kind of the shoot your shot moment that you're just gonna like let you pass by, right? Those are kind of like the thoughts that we're thinking about pretty proactively as we're trying to think if we're gonna work together with her. And so what do you think happens next? Well, what happens next is we get to our cliffhanger breakout session. Okay, this is number 1 of 2, okay? I'm gonna give you guys now 2 minutes to ask me whatever questions that you have up until this point in the story. If you ask me a question that's gonna give away what happens next, I'm not gonna answer it. But if you guys have any questions that will help clarify where we're at in the story, what you're then gonna get is 5 minutes to collaborate at each of your tables with your group members on the following questions. Based on what you know so far, what are the next steps you would attempt to take in launching this business successfully? And how would you handle the Kendall Jenner situation? So, it is 12:59 right now. You have 2 minutes to ask me whatever questions you want up until this point in the story, and then you're gonna get into your breakout groups for 5 minutes to come up with like quick back of napkin solutions to these 2 questions. You'll share your answers. I'll give you some feedback, and then we'll move on with the rest of the story. Sound good? Okay, who's got a question? Boom, go ahead. What's your name?
Willem, what did
Nice to meet
you
you.
do with the production? Put it like skyrocket high to get so much inventory
Yeah, so
as
you should
possible?
assume at this point in the story, ahead of getting into the answers to these questions, that if we needed additional units, right, additional hoverboards, we have a direct relationship with our factory, okay, and we can call them up and they can ship over, let's say another 100 hoverboards, 200 hoverboards. We have the cash flow in our bank to put out 100 grand if we need for, another 500 hoverboards, okay? We have that type of money at our disposal to do that. Does that answer your question, or is there another follow-up to that?
I just think, what my question was is, I think I would be scared that I could not, after you put this on and it gets like, people see this product, I want it,
Yeah, that's a
I'm
real
not
worry.
able to-
And if that's a worry,
fill out the asking of the public.
understood. Who else got a question? Go ahead.
At the time, did you guys have direct confirmation that she would uphold her end of the deal?
You should absolutely be thinking that, yes, she's going to uphold her end of the bargain and this end of the deal. That's right. You should absolutely think that. Go ahead.
So what were your concerns with working with Kendall?
So at the moment, I kind of highlighted in the 2 slides before what some of the things we were thinking about from a concern standpoint, as your fellow student over there mentioned, right? The amount of demand, that's a concern, right? 50 million followers, what type of demand is going to come from this? Keep in mind, we're selling our hoverboard for $1,500 at this time, $1,500, okay? So this is a premium product, okay? There's no dinky $200 hoverboard, okay? This is a premium patented hoverboard from China that we're selling. Last 2 questions, then we're going to get into the breakout groups. You 2 are together, so go ahead, quick.
Yeah,
You're fine.
were you guys the only one like doing hoverboards at that time, or
You should
there was
absolutely
no
think.
competition
You
at
should
all?
absolutely think that we are like the only one here in the States. Maybe there's one other competitor that might be popping up in the next coming weeks ahead, but we are first to market here with this product. Okay, no one knows about it. Go ahead, you.
Do you have any second thoughts about letting go of your previous company?
Yes, but let's leave that type of stuff for afterwards because I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the whole breakout here. Cool, awesome. And one more.
Was the factory producing your hoverboards also in China?
Correct. The factory is in China that's producing the hoverboards. We call them up, we say we need hoverboards. They ship them overnight via air freight, right? Oftentimes, it might not be exactly overnight, but we have this closure from the factory that we can get hoverboards within, let's say, a 7 business day period if we make that call. Okay, that's the mindset that we're in and that we've been told. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, last one.
Sorry, so
You're
for
fine.
$1,500, how much did the manufacturer receive for you?
Yeah, so you should be essentially thinking that it costs us about $500 between the product and shipping to get it over here to the US. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, you got 5 minutes to go and answer these 2 questions starting now. Go. How would you handle it? Then you'll share your answers. So someone nominate one another from your group to share the answers.
get my back in here.
One more minute. All right. Who wants to share their answer first?
I think for this work, like,
Which group said they finished? You guys said you were like done in like 30 seconds. So let's hear your amazingness. Please enlighten us on.
That,
Yes, go ahead.
I think we would, before we give it to Kendall Jenner, we would ship over a decent amount more, just
Okay.
anticipating that it's gonna kind of blow up or
Makes sense.
whatever.
Yep.
And then kind of have Kendall like be part of our launch process.
Okay.
Like when we decide to launch, it would be like, this is sponsored or not sponsored, but this
Okay.
is endorsed by Kendall
So you're keeping the Kendall Jenner component. You're going to work with her, it sounds like. Okay, cool, awesome. Next group, go ahead.
We're going to work with her, but we're also going to anticipate demand by having on our website an option to pre-order.
Okay.
So that we have the capital
Love
to,
that. Love the idea of pre-order system.
get covered with it.
So that was something that you were thinking about, but one thing to keep in mind that might be difficult now to think about, but no one asked the question. Basically, guys, we had like 4 days to make a decision. So not a huge amount of time. So when these types of opportunities with a Kendall Jenner knockoff, what do the fraudsters want? They want the premium product, right? So they started coming after us specifically because we're the $1,500 premium version of the hoverboard versus the crappy knockoffs like on Canal Street in New York City for $300. Okay? So we were a target for it. And ultimately, from a team perspective, we just didn't have the type of e-commerce, supply chain, technical talent to handle the immense amount of problems that were popping up. The best way to describe it would be like we would solve one problem, but 3 new ones would pop up, right? Like, and it was just a continuous 14-month period, basically, of that, right? And let's just wrap up with some lessons learned from the experience. So, number 1, have a fraud detection service integrate into your website, especially if you're going to be in the e-commerce space, okay? Why? Because oftentimes a lot of like standard e-com websites that you might use for maybe a new venture you guys might launch, they have some fraud detection built in, but these guys are so good that they can easily get around those said barriers that are protecting you. And ultimately, there are dedicated fraud detection solutions out there that literally focus entirely their business model on just protecting e-com websites. So integrate one of those into your website. Have adequate inventory prior to working with influencers, right? I think that's a pretty obvious one, right? We very quickly were on back order of our product, more or less out of the gates, right? Pretty nuts, but true. Have someone in China overseeing your factory's production. So there are consultants in China that literally specialize in helping American companies by being that person in the factory overseeing your product's production amounts. That would have been something fantastic to have had because they probably spoke better English than the people we were talking to at our factory, and they could have been a little bit more honest about how we could contingency plan our way out of the, shitty situation we're in, to put it frankly. Don't get caught up in celebrity mirages. I love talking about this. Specifically, when you get the chance to work with Kendall Jenner. Someone asked me if I had met Kendall or whatnot, right? Like, when you get the chance to work with these celebrities and your company is just skyrocketing, going viral, right? You sort of create this mirage in your head that everything is just working out beautifully, right? But meanwhile, obviously underneath the surface, not so much, right? As you guys can tell from today. And so you want to try and avoid and not get caught up in those celebrity mirages if in fact any of you ever get the chance to work, with one of those grade A type celebrities or even other types of enormous institutions. You want to make sure you try and differentiate yourself from the competition, right? So that's easier said than done, but there are things that maybe we could have done from a communication standpoint, right? We were getting interviewed by, Yahoo News or CNBC. Maybe we could have been leading off with, we have the patented version of this device, everything else is crap, right? Maybe a little bit nicer than that, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, we could have differentiated ourselves better. But instead, all these frickin' devices looked identical, right? And so no one could tell the difference between left and right. Option A, option B, option Z, right? It was very, very difficult. And the last 2 things, number 6 and 7, kind of tie together. And that is the following, which is there are serious factors that entrepreneurs like yourselves must consider prior to just hoping and wishing and dreaming that your business goes viral. Why? Because if the proper planning is not conducted ahead of time, right, in order to make sure that your virality that you're experiencing can be controlled properly, you can ultimately jeopardize your business, which is what happened here. And hence, when going viral fucking sucks. Okay, so that is just about it for my presentation. Just so you guys know some of what I've been doing since my Funky Duck days. So right afterwards, I started writing a book, started blogging, podcasting, started building this like emerging media brand called When Going Viral. I actually like put on my big boy shoes and like got a real job after all my entrepreneurial nuttiness. In November 2016 through January 2019, I worked in sales at a children's ed tech company called Little Bits. It was kind of like a 21st century Lego company. I see someone nodding, you know about it, awesome, love that. that I was full-time at WeWork doing marketing just before the pandemic for a year. And these days I am a sales and marketing consultant. I'm back in the entrepreneurial waters. I've created like a mini consulting business, you can think about it as. I've got about a half a dozen international companies that I consult for, where I kind of act as like their US general manager, you can think of. And finally, I'm like pursuing my public speaking career, part of why I'm here today. Hopefully I did a decent job, doing these awesome educational workshops, what you just experienced today, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. And if you guys know any other organizations, schools, friends, and classes similar to what you're in today that you think would be interested in bringing me in, I would truly, truly appreciate the opportunity to do it. And aside from that, thank you so, so much for listening to my story. If you could do each of the 3 following things below, I would truly, truly appreciate it. Number 1 is fill out the short survey that's listed over there, bit.ly/3agvkak. It's cap sensitive, so be mindful of that. I would love to hear what you thought about today. It's a short 2-minute survey, but would really, really appreciate you filling that out so I know how I did. On top of that, if you could follow my media brand, When Going Viral, at When Going Viral, and at Max Ringelheim on social media, I would truly appreciate it as I continue to talk and share lessons learned from my past and my entrepreneurial career, as well as other awesome viral stories that are out there that I love to cover. And finally, like I mentioned just before, if you know any organizations, schools, classes, teachers, professors, etc., who would be interested in learning about this workshop, please let me know. That is my personal email. I told MGG315 earlier today that I am more than happy to be of service and of help to every one of you as a former alumni. And so if you have any questions, there's my contact info. I'll give you a card, it has my cell phone number. And yeah, thank you so, so much. So I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. Happy to, how much time do we have?
150 right now.
Cool, so we got 10 minutes of Q&A, if that's good with you. Did you guys enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Who's got a question? Sure, there's some other questions. I'm happy to answer. Go ahead, in the back.
At any point when things started going downhill and most of your issues were like occurring from your manufacturing in China, did you ever think to maybe get up and go to China / look for another manufacturer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my 2 roommates, they went to China, actually. I think it was June of 2015, maybe July of 2015. Well, things were just literally going crazy, right? But they felt the need to go over there, talk to our manufacturer, try and get a sense what the deal was with production capacity, shipping capacity, right? All that good stuff. During that trip, in fact, they actually went and visited some other factories to consider bringing in a lower cost alternative. Our better judgment though decided not to do that because we just felt like we wanted to continue to try and brand ourselves as this premium product. Also would have been like unkosher, like ethically, to be starting to sell crap when we're trying to sell the actual premium brand. So in the end we decided not to, but we brought a couple of those crappy ass knockoffs to the States to like test them out ourselves, to like make the decision like comprehensively, if that makes sense, right? Like, we didn't want to just like say, oh yeah, we're not going to do it, like we wanted to evaluate it. And you could just tell when you ride those alternatives, the turning capacity and just there was issues with it that just didn't feel right, and compared with ours, I felt it was awesome though. Ours it was just so much smoother, and unfortunately you couldn't tell that on the surface, right? You couldn't tell that unless you rode one. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Cool. Who else got a question? I saw someone raise their hand. Go ahead.
Do you guys ever think of like just coming up with a new product instead of staying with the hoverboard, like the electric scooters, how they're hitting big nowadays?
Yeah, it's so funny you asked that. I mean, there's a couple things that we wanted to do. So just like how Bird and Lime, I'm assuming you're referring to, right? Those scooter sharing businesses, they have a GPS in it. You just find one and go ride it, right? That was actually, in fact, what we were hoping to do with hoverboards, right? We wanted to try and distinguish our product in that capacity. For the person who asked about intellectual property, that was one of the ways we were going to try to, get some protections on the business. In terms of other products, the guys, as I mentioned, that I was roommates with, my 2 co-founders, they had a mobile accessories company. So they were already selling other products. This was the new shiny object that everyone was loving. And so, by the time I left, because I just knew it was a fad, I wasn't really interested in doing something new with these guys. Like you can imagine, like it was just a wild, wild west type of situation. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't share today, but that like is the other 75% of the story, right? There's a ton of other meat on this bone that, you know, I only had an hour to talk today, but hence why I have like a book outline, and you know, I've been working on like a movie treatment concept, you know, for maybe a documentary and things like that, that it could be really super awesome for people to hear more about how it all worked out. So what's that question? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so.
You guys didn't raise your hand yet.
Yeah, it didn't work out this time.
I know.
But if you could, like, going back to the, I know we kind of talked about it, but like, if you could go back to the place where, you know, you had 4 days to decide if you wanted to take upon the offer with Kendall Jenner, would you do it, or, and what would you do differently from like that stage if you're at that stage?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So, I think the best way to answer that is hindsight 2020. I would have looked at the 1, 2, 3, 4 months prior to that Kendall Jenner moment, right? That's the right way to, you know, I mentioned not jeopardize your business, proper planning. It would have been that type of planning,
Right.
which, by the way, like from some of my corporate America jobs, I've gotten so much more visibility into how to conduct that type of planning, right? You know, the other companies I mentioned, you know, they've had some pretty fascinating products as well that they've launched, not on the same scale as the hoverboard, but you get an understanding of things like supply chain, operational planning that would have been the maybe 2 or 3 months leading up to that Kendall Jenner moment. I mean, when you get that opportunity to work with a Kendall Jenner, right? You know, what I've noticed is you just, you know, open up yourselves to incredible opportunities, right? So to say that I wouldn't have done it would be, I think, probably not my answer, but I would have put myself in a much better position ideally to handle the virality better that would have come from that moment. And that's one of the other workshops that I do. Today you heard the sort of soup to nuts story of the hoverboard, right? The rise and fall. Like one of my workshops that's evolved out of all this public speaking is like a workshop on how to go viral, but control virality properly, right? Which is a topic that I don't believe really ever gets covered, but helps alleviate, you know, the reason why you just, you know, hope, wish, and dream it without any plan. Does that make sense? Cool. Go ahead. It's your customs friend over there. Yeah. Telling us that she is going to go on her social media and promote us, tag us, and all that great stuff, and, you know, represent our company, essentially our product on her social media. Okay. And so, although we're not officially launched yet, we've got about 24 hoverboards or so in our office on Queens, in Floral Park, New York, on Long Island. And, you know, we're in that new office space. We've just launched a website, so we have a website. We're up and running on that front. And so, you know, we've got a couple of hoverboards, about 24 hoverboards in stock. And so what happens next? Well, we decide to think. What are we going to think about? Well, we're going to think about, are we going to do business with Kendall here, right? We've got this opportunity. So what's going through our minds? What are we thinking about? Well, we're thinking about influencer marketing is sort of this emerging sort of field of marketing that's getting more and more popular back in 2015. And we're thinking that this could be a legitimate go-to market strategy for our business that could be successful. At the time, we're thinking about the demand that might come from this. Well, Kendall Jenner has freaking 50 million followers at this time, the largest or one of the largest in the world. And like literally the opportunity to work with Kendall for 0 marketing dollars, but just 1 free hoverboard, like that almost just seems too good to be true, right? So we're kind of weighing the pros and cons of that. Feels a lot more pro versus con, as you can probably imagine. Because usually something like that might require $1 million+ dollars. And then we're just kind of thinking to ourselves, is this really the shoot your shot moment that like we're just gonna let this pass by, right? Like that's like sort of our mentality. Are we not gonna do it just because, right? Like this type of opportunity doesn't come around too often, right? So what do you think happens next, my friends? Well, that is where I leave you on this first cliffhanger. And I put you guys in the position to figure out what's gonna happen next. So how are we gonna do that? Well, you guys are each at each of your respective tables. You're gonna get 2 minutes to ask me any questions that you want up until this point in the story to help clarify the story for you in your minds, okay? And then you're gonna get 5 minutes to come up with quick, back of napkin type solutions to the following 2 questions. Number 1, based on what you know so far, what next steps would you take in attempting to launch this business successfully? Okay, that's question number 1 you have to figure out. Number 2, how would you handle the Kendall Jenner situation, okay? So, you get 2 minutes to ask me any questions you want To clarify the story, if you ask me a question that's going to give away the story, I ain't answering it, so don't do that. And then you get 5 minutes to come up with quick answers to these said questions. And then you'll share your answers. I'll give you some feedback, and then we'll continue on with the story. Sound good? Who's got a question? So I got an answer. Go ahead.
How confident were you in the product development of the hoverboard at that point?
Yeah, so our confidence level in the product development, when you say product development, just to be clear, like our factory in China, the confidence level with them, like being able to produce it, that type of product development? Okay. Yeah, so you should be assuming, going into answering these questions, that we have full confidence in our factory, right? They're the patent owners of this device. They've had these patents for multiple years. We met them in person, face to face in China, right? They've told us, hey, you want more hoverboards? We'll ship you more hoverboards. You got money in the bank to send us for more hoverboards? We'll just ship you more hoverboards. No big deal, right? That's the confidence level you should have. Sound good? Cool. Go ahead. Next question.
How expensive was each hoverboard for you, just to acquire from the company?
Yeah, so you should be assuming that it costs about $500 for us to bring and import the unit from China, from the factory, here to the US, to our office, and then from our office, we ship it to the end customer. Is that clear? What's up?
Can I have a follow-up?
Of course you can, yeah.
How long did it take?
To get the products.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should be under assumption that our factory is telling us that the hoverboards will arrive in about 7 business days. From the time we place the order and ship them the money, about 7 business days via air freight. So it's not coming on a container on a boat, they'll ship to us via air freight. Understood? Okay, go ahead, yes?
How many hoverboards are in one unit?
How many hoverboards are in what?
Would be in like one unit with one shipment.
You should be assuming that we have the capacity to order 100 hoverboards if we need, 500 hoverboards if we need, right? The ability for us, we can't order 10,000 hoverboards, okay? But we can order a healthy amount of hoverboards because we have money in the bank. We also, one of the co-founders had a pretty rich uncle that was an investor in the business that could, you know, we need $100,000 for something, right? Like related to the business, can be pretty easily cut. And we also had existing cash flows from that previous mobile accessories company that could help fund these types of purchase orders. Does that answer your question? Beautiful. Last question, go ahead.
What kind of agreement or contract did you have with Kendall Jenner?
Okay, so you should be assuming, until this point in the story, that we don't have any contract with Kendall Jenner. We just have this intermediary, right, Dave, who's introduced us to her, and she is super excited about the product, and she ultimately is requesting 1 hoverboard, and she's saying, I will happily tag your company on social media and promote the heck out of it. You give me 1 free hoverboard. That's the extent of this quote-unquote verbal agreement. Does that sound right? Is that your question? No. If you want to answer the question in terms of like, oh, let's get a contract together, you can totally suggest that, but that's what you should know going into this point of the story. Sound good? Cool. Did you have a question? Last one.
Were you planning on using your previous mobile accessories company, or did you want to go with a whole new one for this opportunity?
Yeah, so you should be assuming that we're continuing to sell our mobile accessories the way we have been. We have different retail, said partnerships and the like that we're working with them. But you know, we were, obviously thinking about going pretty balls to the wall with this hoverboard because we felt we had something special. Is that clear? Okay, you guys have 5 minutes to answer these questions. I'll walk around, see if you guys have any questions for me to help clarify, but go ahead, 5 minutes.
So we have everyone in good sized groups. I want to ask you two at this table and you two at this table to please join some other tables.
Cool.
So you can do that too, and then we'll have 2 here. If you guys want to combine, then we're going to make you 2 this.
Yeah,
so some combination of these 3 tables. You can move these 3 tables together.
Or you guys, yeah, why don't you 3 come together? That would be beautiful. Oh, great idea.
Thank you guys.
Do it. Go hop over there.
That's what I was.
That's great.
There you go.
Yeah. Any questions, guys? You guys already got the answer. You're done.
No way. He just said,
One more minute. One more minute. Wrap up. Any last questions? Still on the
As long as Kendall doesn't play.
Okay, you guys have answers? Feeling good? Feeling good? Okay. Let's go. These guys said that they had like the best answers. Like, right from the get-go. So they said they wanted to. I'm just kidding. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear what your answer.
So for question one,
yes.
The next thing I would do is I would switch up my website, like the shipping time.
Okay.
I would change it to 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
And then my plan would to be is as we get an order, we order one from China, so we don't have like an overhead expense. And then they are expecting it in 7 days, so they can get it in 7 days.
Awesome. Okay. So that's what you're thinking about on that front. Are you going to work with Kendall?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What are you going to do? What is that?
You gotta get in direct touch with her.
Yeah, so you want direct contact with her,
So
right?
you don't believe in Dave.
You don't believe in Dave. Yeah, you're a little shaky on Dave.
A little shaky.
Yeah, I got it. I was a little shaky on Dave.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Go ahead. What do you guys got?
So we would kind of split away from the mobile business, and we'd have like a separate business altogether that's only selling the hoverboards.
Okay.
And we had some disagreements, but the consensus is that most of us agree that Kendall would get the hoverboard.
Okay.
But there would be a contract signed.
Okay, so you want a contract in place with Kendall.
But we can have exclusives. So what Kendall gets is a Kendall Jenner exclusive design, and then have a limited edition run off that, and then have bidding take place on some of those versions, and then pivot to other celebrity endorsements.
Got it. So some like customized type design for Kendall for her hoverboard, so she gets this extra special pop-up. Your window to make a decision is extremely short, but love that type of suggestions. That's fantastic. Next, go ahead.
For the first question.
Yes.
I would say like to expect the brand to grow from the US to the other countries of the world.
Yep.
It's just so popular. And
Yes.
Just to think that demand is going to increase for a lot.
Okay, very cool. So from your side, you're going to still work with her, but you're going to take more of like maybe a global approach, not even too much of a US focused approach?
Yeah, because I feel like everybody knows her, so everybody's going to like want one after that.
Yeah,
So.
no doubt. Awesome, awesome. Let's do 2 more minutes. Any other questions? Anyone have something different that they came up with that they want to share? Go ahead.
Our group came up with a different approach, it's more like having an exclusive contract with the manufacturer.
Love that. See, now that is the right way to think it.
Before
Okay.
you launch your product, there could be some other company that's watching you do it, and they can take over and they can contact the manufacturer. We're gonna buy more than what they're buying, and
Yep.
you know, why don't you give it to us?
Absolutely.
And if you do the exclusive contract that you're gonna be the only supplier in North America, then you have that exclusivity to yourself.
I love that,
before you
yeah.
become public.
So I love that solution. The only thing I will throw out there to you, because we're here to educate all of you. Sometimes over in China, there's a little bit of backdoor dealing that takes place. So even though they might sign an agreement that says you have this exclusive, which it sounds like would have been a great approach to take, there is still that potential that they kind of not abide by it, but it's the right way to be thinking about what we're about to embark on, which is a nutty roller coaster ride. Okay, so great stuff. Go ahead, last point, and then we'll move on.
What do you do like that for the rest of the country?
Say it one more time.
Like that's your project.
I can't hear. I'm sorry.
The whole country.
Yes.
Not only for the manufacturer that you write down it's your product. Try to do that.
I don't know if I'm understanding the question exactly. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the master. I just can't hear it that well.
But patent.
Patent. Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes. So the patent concept is really like from our side, the way in which we're thinking about how we're going to brand this product. We're buying, essentially, think of it as the Cadillac version of the hoverboard. It's not any $200 crappy hoverboard that we're selling. We're selling a really premium end product. And the idea of us being able to communicate that, because it's the truth, being able to communicate that to customers is one of the ways in which we're thinking we can kind of align Kendall's notoriety with our premium product. Is that clear? Okay. You guys ready to hear what happens next? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Here we go. So, what happens next is the following. We decided to give Kendall Jenner one free hoverboard. So we decided to work with her, okay? And what happens is the following. Kendall gets the hoverboard and she posts a video that blows up the internet, okay? Like literally next day, TMZ's covering it, every freaking outlet is covering this video that Kendall posts. And in less than 24 hours, this video has over 1 million likes and over 50,000 comments, okay? Our Instagram account for Funky Duck was at 0 followers on one day and at over 20,000 the next day, okay? She posts this incredible video that you're gonna see in a second, and she tags our account, and my freaking phone here did not stop ringing with notifications for probably a good 3 days. Like literally 3 days straight of non-stop follower-related action, okay? Here's the fantastic video that she posted. Check it out. So, she's in her kitchen. She gets her on turn number 1.
You got that turn down. It's like a racetrack for you.
She gets her on turn number 2, but then she gets a little bit too cocky on turn number 3, and what happens? She busts her ass, okay? In her own apartment. That's what she posted on social media. Did anyone ever see that video by any chance before today? Okay, sometimes when I'm in audiences with younger folks, they might have seen it before. So that video goes live on Instagram, okay? Over 1 million likes, over 50,000 comments. And what do you think happens next, my friends? From there, it was a domino effect. Because what happened next, you think? Our boy Justin Bieber wants a hoverboard for him and his buddies, right? And then, Jamie Foxx comes calling saying, I will go on the Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show if you get me one hoverboard right now, and I'll shout your brand out on national television. And then who else? Chris Brown. J.R. Smith during the NBA Finals 2015, the Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors, he hits us up saying, I'm going to ride your hoverboard into the locker room if you just give me one hoverboard for free. Kendall Jenner's got a hoverboard. I need a hoverboard because I'm the coolest guy in the NBA, okay? That's the type of outreach we're getting from folks. Wiz Khalifa, Kevin Hart, Ryan Lochte, you name it, all these people start knocking on our door needing a hoverboard because if Kendall Jenner's got one, they need one. And guess what happens next? Jamie Foxx decides to deliver on what we thought he was going to do.
So this is a funky duck. That one, yes, a funky duck. So you want to try it? It's the cold part right here. I can't get off. I didn't work that part. I just float out like that.
Unbelievable, right? On national television, okay? National television. What do you think happens next? J.R. Smith kept his word. This is during the NBA Finals, Game 1. An hour before this video gets recorded on ESPN, he's on his Instagram account saying, "Thanks so much, Funky Duck, for hooking me up with my first hoverboard." Check this out.
Folks are ready to go. So apparently is J.R. Smith. This is how you arrive from work, apparently. He hasn't exactly been rolling in the finals so far. He's shooting 34%, but happy to be here nonetheless.
Oh, man, I need you to meet Mr. Gadget. I need one.
Pretty awesome, right? Unbelievable, right? Okay, so that type of traction starts building. And what else happens? Well, major companies, television shows start calling us up, wanting hoverboards too, right? You know, Staples is looking to sell hoverboards inside of all of its stores all of a sudden. And, you know, Shark Tank's calling us up saying, guys, if you want to be on Shark Tank tomorrow, you'll cut the line, we'll put you on tomorrow. That's how cool this device was starting to make rounds in, okay? CNBC calls us up saying, we want you on Squawk Box to interview you. That actually happened, literally. Closing bell, not Squawk Box, closing bell. They bring us on to talk about the hoverboard product. So literally all these major media entities, television shows start reaching out, wanting Funky Ducks as well. And sales are soaring, right? Sales are absolutely soaring. Over $1 million in sales in less than 8 weeks, right? With incredible margins. Someone over, I think the other table had asked, you know, what our cost was and everything, with basically like 66% gross margins, right? So we're selling this thing for $1,500, we're getting for about $500 with shipping. Okay, so we're making about $1,000 on every one of these sales, okay? Pretty awesome. And so you're probably thinking, it's time for me to retire in Florida, right? And this is not connected to me living in Florida, just so you know. I only moved to Florida a year ago. This is 2015. But very simply, you're probably thinking, let's post up on the beach, sip some pina coladas, right? Just chill out, not give a care in the world. I'm 24, 25 years old at the time, right? Like, life is good. Let's just quit while we're ahead, right? This is probably what happened, right? No, someone's got to shake their head, right? Okay. No, my friends, because this is only when the problems begin, okay? This is absolutely wrong. Why? What are some of the problems that start popping up? Well, we've got China problems on our hands, right? What are some of these China problems that we have on our hands? Well, we are extremely low on inventory, as you can imagine, right? We started off with these 24 or so hoverboards. You know, Bieber and all his buddies are calling us wanting hoverboards, so we're running out of inventory pretty quickly. You know, we've got over 150 orders that need to be fulfilled, literally, after the Kendall Jenner post, okay? We get some more inventory from China, but we're low on inventory, okay? That's the bottom line. We've got copycat products starting to pop up on like Amazon, Alibaba, right? Devices that are not called Funky Ducks, devices that look slightly different from ours, but they're popping up in some of these different web shops, okay? And customers are starting to call us, getting a little bit concerned about when they're gonna receive their order, right? You know, they just paid $1,500 for this device, when are they gonna get it, right? So there's starting to like be a little bit of rumblings about that topic. Okay, so what do you think happens next? Well, what happens next is I leave you on another cliffhanger, okay? What happens next is you're gonna get 2 more minutes to ask me whatever questions that you have up until this point in the story. I'll answer as many as I can, assuming that doesn't give away the rest of the story. And then from there, you get 5 minutes to try and answer these 2 remarkably difficult questions. How would you handle the interest coming from these other A-list celebrities and news outlets and television programs wanting Funky Ducks? How are you gonna handle that? What business support practices and mechanisms would you put in place to properly control the virality Funky Duck is experiencing, okay? Just like slightly difficult questions, right? Not that big deal. I'll give you 5 minutes, but who's got a question? And I'll provide an answer. Go ahead.
So did you guys ever intend to have celebrity clientele or have any celebrities in your network? Or was that just by chance when you met Dave?
Yeah, so once that domino effect started, right, that influencer marketing go-to-market strategy we were talking about like 10 slides ago, started to really feel like it made a lot of sense to double down on that, right? Feel me? Answer your question?
Yeah, it just came from Dave though, right? Like it wasn't anything like you guys really intended for until you met him.
At that point, the organic interest in our product from these other celebrities wasn't even Dave necessary. These people started reaching out directly. Their agents reaching out directly. Some of them went through Dave because they knew Dave, of course, but You're getting our inbox flooded with emails, calls, flooded, right? Make sense? Did you have a question?
Yeah, so in terms of like the cheaper models, did you have any concern about them being associated with your brand in terms of safety and quality?
Absolutely, yeah. We start seeing these copycats popping up in the marketplace, and we're starting to think, what exactly are they offering, right? We're thinking, wait, could they be getting it from our factory, the patented device? But how so if they're only charging $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 or $700 for it, right? And we're charging $1,500. So we're starting to kind of wrap our brains around that concept, but we don't have the answer, right? Because they're popping up left and right? So we don't know who those other guys are. We're just trying to sort of dig into the weeds of what might be different about their product, where are they getting it? Those are the questions that we're kind of asking ourselves, right? Go ahead.
Did you try to protect your product to make sure that these copycats couldn't copy your product beforehand?
Yeah, so from a protection standpoint, the way you should be thinking about protection at the moment is the following. We've got this awesome brand that we've built, right? It's getting all this backing from all these celebrities, okay? And it's skyrocketing, right? Like we are going viral like no other, okay?
And the product.
The product-wise, we have this Chinese patent, which won't hold up here in the States. But from a quality assurance standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from all the battery mechanics and electrical engineering side of things, right, with the batteries and everything, we feel like we're in very good hands because it's passed all those different said safety regulations because it's coming from that premier factory. Our ability, up until this point in the story, where we're at right now, to protect additional things on the product, what you should be thinking about is, yes, we started to engage an IP, intellectual property lawyer in the States about seeing what things we could do on the product for us to get some of our own funky duck intellectual property. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Who's got another question? Yes, you guys both raised your hand at the same time. So what's up with that?
I don't know. So my question is, so how were you guys selling the product? Was it just like a website, or were you? How was like the selling process? Did you have any stores, or was it just like the website? Because you said you had like $1 million worth of.
Yeah. So the way you should be thinking about how we're selling the product right now is basically 95% on our website.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Go ahead.
Have you thought about, since you made such a huge sale in such a short amount of time, have you thought about manufacturing the product in your own warehouse in the United States, and have you taken any steps towards it?
Yeah, so the ability for us to manufacture this product in the US is not on our radar right now. We don't have that capacity, capability. That's a lot more money, a lot more intellectual manpower that we don't have at the moment, right? We're just trying to keep up with the demand. So you could come up with maybe an answer in your answer during the breakout session related to that, but it's not something that we're actually actively thinking about. Is that clear? Sound good? Who else got a question? Any other questions? We're good? Okay. You got 5 minutes to come up with the answers to both of those 2 questions, and it is 1:23. So go ahead. Let's go. Let's do it. You all ready? All good? All good? Got answers? All good, guys? All good back there? All right. Who went first last time? You guys went first last time, so I won't pick on you. You guys went first. What do you got? No?
So for the first one, we kind of said, like since there's other competitors, popular product, cheaper.
Yep.
Like 50 variations of the product.
Yep, love that.
Keep the premium, but still have the cheaper versions.
Love it. And how would you handle the interest coming from the celebrities? What would you do?
Yeah, I mean,
would you hook either up?
Yeah.
Would you hook either up? Well, you're
If you're about to speak, I have a good friend who did that, and also we go down to visit them all the time. And
That's so cool.
Really enjoy it.
I thought we could travel a little further to see the world, but it's not only
We obviously tried, like you were saying.
I could say that. I always tell. I get that though. I always tell my girlfriend when we retire, we go to Curacao. It's a Caribbean island. I'm going to retire in this island. I don't have to see other countries. It's beautiful enough.
Where are you guys from?
From the Netherlands.
Yeah, I mean, so
From the Netherlands. He's from Utrecht, and I'm from Dordrecht.
Yes,
Yes.
electronic show here in the US. Vegas, that's what the Campton Fair is, but
Groningen.
training. So going to those trips,
Groningen of freestyle program.
Is it near your farm? It's like a farm.
Studies professor at
University
of Groningen.
Right? Like,
Oh really?
virality is
My
virality.
father is also a
You're looking
professor
for
at
that.
the university.
You go to search and find that jaw-dropping, eye-catching, eye-popping, interesting wow people, right? But, you know, if you want to sell toothbrush holders because you're passionate about teeth, you can sell, 10,000 toothbrush holders each year, right? Like, that's cool too, right?
I'm retiring.
Kind of cool.
Oh really?
Congratulations. Enjoy your retirement. I think you deserve it. Southeast Asia?
Enjoy it. Phenomenon. So I just like to talk about it from a more media standpoint versus something like, I'm not like looking for tomorrow's best new product that can go viral. But maybe one day in the future, like I would discount it, but it's not on the time horizon right this second.
Thank you so much, really appreciate it.
Enjoyed it?
Thank you very much.
Please fill out the survey, email me. Follow me.
The second you said it, we hit it for you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, really appreciate it. You're welcome.
I also just wanted to say that I absolutely love the whole talk. This is probably one of the most.
You get that?
Honestly, one of the most engaging. Especially like the parts where you like have and like talk about stuff and like it's just this is probably the most engaging talk. And because I myself I'm like super interested in public speaking and want to get into public speaking. My question to you is, how did you like, what made you get into public speaking and consulting and like going this route, like talking about your stuff from like going from, you know, you said you had a conventional job.
Yeah, just this idea of like having this sort of duty to share with the broader business community,
right,
the cautions, concerns, and warnings associated with going viral.
Right.
That's what this experience taught me, that I felt a duty or a need to share with the broader general public, specifically the business community, right? Because I just feel like there's this inherent novelty of virality that's just all positive, right? But there's a negative downside to it if the proper planning isn't ready. So that was kind of the main driver, and I obviously have a passion for startups, entrepreneurship, tech. It's a very high-profile industry, right? So to be able to talk about my experiences with folks like yourself is just fulfilling for me personally.
So what other places are you like targeting speaking to, like schools and are you doing corporate?
Companies, corporate, right? Like doing learning and development workshops at companies, right? For employee training purposes, things like that.
Do you have like your like I see like your social media and everything.
Yeah.
Actually, because I myself like I recently got into like coaching and stuff, and I wanted to get into like coaching myself, and I also love public speaking, and I did like Toastmasters and all that kind of stuff too. In the past, yeah. So I was, it was just very intriguing to me, and also about David Nuzzer.
Yeah,
I read his book Connected to Goodness. It's funny you said that because I watch his videos all the time. And
I just spoke to him yesterday.
Really? Yeah, that's amazing. But I also had a professor for my communications class. His name is Dave. And I think that could be like a really good connection for you because I know that
If you could reach out to me and connect
I
with
would
me,
definitely reach out to you because I think that would be a really good connection for you. But it was amazing to meet you. My name is Kushal, by the way.
Please reach out, connect with me, social, email,
100%.
Okay, we'll stay in touch. I'm happy to be of advice.
Did you say you're like a podcaster?
So I have a podcast with only 7 episodes since 2016, so I have not put in consistent effort to it, but I think that there's an incredible podcast opportunity for all that I'm working on right now. Is that it?
Yeah. Like I was like,
high quality.
I was like, kind of building some context for like So some local entrepreneurs say, I want to like start a podcast, like some local entrepreneurs. Is there something good things to like think about? Yeah, think about going into
Co-hosts are great. As much as I need to read it, it's like more sustainable. There's still aspirations.
Well, I was able to watch it. I was in that one as well. Yeah, I also watched it. Yeah, that was a good one too.
Not exactly the most supply chain savvy, I would imagine, but maybe some had a little bit of experience. But they're there like box up the units, right? Ship them out to customers, stuff like that. So that would be one quick little problem I would mention. Go ahead, please.
Did you get any like lawsuits for people getting hurt on it?
Yes, so up until this point in the story, you should be on the assumption, I don't want to give away, right, the next part, but you should be assuming that there have been no lawsuits pending against us, okay? Up until this point in the story. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Cool, go ahead.
How was QC going at the time for the quality of the product coming in from China?
Could you just repeat the question one more time? Sorry.
So how was the QC going?
Yes.
Like with the products coming in that you're sending out during this like initial batch?
Yes, so you should be on the assumption at this point in the story that quality control, quality assurance is top grade. We're working with the patent owners of this device. We've seen their factory, we know who they are, we met them in person, right? And so from a quality control standpoint, you should not be thinking that our devices that we're selling at Funky Duck, okay? I quiver that, just think about how I frame that statement. The devices that we are selling should not have those sorts of concerns. Is that clear? Awesome. Go ahead.
Did they have an international patent on the product?
Can you just rephrase the question?
Did the firm that you source your product from, did they have an international patent on the product?
Yeah, so the firm that we were purchasing our said hoverboards from had a Chinese patent on the device. Okay, so they had a Chinese patent on the device. They had multiple patents for multiple types of products, the hoverboard as well. And you should be assuming that the extent to which that Chinese patent would hold up here in the US, as a 24, 25-year-old at the time, not being a IP graduated attorney, we're thinking that, that holds some jurisdiction over here, but we also know that, from our side, it's not our patent, it's their patent, right? We're just a reseller of the product, so it's not like we have all these incredible protections that we can, promote, right? But we can say to customers, if this is where your question is going, we can say to customers, we sell the patented product. We've got the patents that we can show you if you're curious, for that type of visibility. Is that clear?
Do we have time for another question?
Yeah, one more. Go ahead.
How much inventory did he have, and did he have an exclusive sales deal with the company that was making the hoverboards?
So, did we have an exclusive arrangement with the factory in China? Is that the question?
Yeah.
You should be on the assumption that right now we do not, at this point in the story, have a exclusive agreement with our factory in China. You should be on the assumption that at this point in the story, we are thinking about how to maybe structure that type of arrangement with the factory. But just keep in mind, there's all of a sudden a lot of traction happening with the product. So think about how that type of answer, if that's going to be your answer here, might be a bit tough, given where we're at in the story, right? You're seeing all the traction taking place, etc. Okay? It's not easy, I get it. Okay? 5 minutes, go.
that copycat stuff coming around. There's not much.
Sure. That makes sense. How do you turn that to revenue? How do you count
Okay. No, you still have more time, sorry. Sorry. Any questions? Okay. Cool.
And like their Chinese IP.
I like make
And
those
those sales exclusive breakers, like how
yeah, that's yeah, maybe it's not
like a differentiator.
yeah, that's like literally the best.
I
mean, like, you saw it.
Any questions? Awesome. One more minute. One more minute.
Into a $200.
Yes.
That's why I'll sell that shit. But if we can get the package, that makes that
awesome.
Yeah, that's true.
Say it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's early.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, what's my high school? Really? How cool is that? He's my favorite. That's cool. All right. We got some answers. You guys ready? Over there? All good? Good? Okay. Who wants to go first? You guys, my Lawrence High School guy over there. Let's go. What do you got? You said you had solutions. I need solutions. What do we got?
I said just get on Shark Tank.
Just go on Shark Tank.
Just go on Shark Tank.
That's it.
And like
that will solve all problems.
Well,
I thought I wanted solutions, man.
They have the solutions. They're pretty good.
Okay. So that's what we're going for answers to 1 and 2. You're going on Shark Tank. You're telling Bieber and Wiz Khalifa, screw off, kick rocks, right? Because you're just going on Shark Tank. We giving Wiz Khalifa a hoverboard or no? We giving Modern Family a hoverboard? Oh my God! Come on! I want Lawrence. What's happening? I want the solution. I'm kidding around. Okay, what do you got? I'm kidding around. What do you got?
Well, in general, we kind of said that like the very first priority would be to see if we can get patents.
Okay.
Like more specific, detailed, and
yeah,
know, especially like American patents on the product, because that will eliminate the copycat issues.
Yep.
So it's pretty much.
Okay, so you want to try and get some U.S. patents to start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
The biggest issue or biggest problem in our eyes was just like the copycats.
Yes.
Because like at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to turn a $1,500 product into like a $200 product, no matter how much you switch up your.
Absolutely. Totally get it. Makes
so,
sense.
If we couldn't get those, then we said honestly we would still give one to all the A-listers and like we would try and sign as many contracts as we can with Staples and all that.
Makes sense.
But we'd be trying to sell the company, to be honest.
Okay, we're trying to get out quick.
Yeah,
like to retire in Florida, boom. Let's get a quick sale.
Like sell it at its peak and get as much money as we can.
Okay.
If we can't get the bats.
Okay. Understood. Cool. You guys haven't got it. Go ahead.
Alright, so to kind of combat both issues,
okay,
do idea would be to piggyback off of something that's already established.
Okay.
I mean, you can go to Razor, go to sporting goods companies.
Yep.
That way you can use their manufacturing, but more importantly, you can use their corporate litigation too.
Okay.
Which can definitely help you with a lot of the things, like the copycats and the things that are coming that you guys probably don't have the power to deal with.
Individually, no, right? And you're going to need a somewhat substantial law firm and a decent amount of capital to pay the lawyers to try and put out all the flames that are popping up from these said copycats, right? Because there's starting to be a decent amount, which you're going to learn about more shortly. But I like the logic of trying to stomp out the crappy competitors, right? So what you thinking, right?
There's like a few more reasons for it. First, you kind of want a partnership because you can use this newfound publicity to leverage a better deal depending on the company that offers you the best deal. And second, patents mean very little in other parts of the world.
Yes.
And so they rely more on brand recognition. So you want to be the Louis Vuitton of hoverboards.
Yes,
that's
completely.
what we want.
That's absolutely what we're thinking about. We want to be the cream of the crop, the Cadillac version of the hoverboard, by associating ourselves with these said celebrities. And so that's spot on to what we were attempting to do. You will learn very shortly how even with that, there were still some said trials and tribulations that were a little bit even more difficult to solve, even with that cream of the crop type brand. Is that clear? We'll talk about it shortly. But great job. That's awesome. Good stuff. Go ahead.
So
Yes.
here's what we answer the first part of the problem. First
Please,
problem
go ahead.
is
Go
that
ahead.
we would only accept select few requests from A-lister celebrities.
Yep.
Everybody else pays for it.
So being super selective up front,
Yep.
who you're going to work with.
Yep.
Love that. Go ahead.
The other one is, once they are using our product, we can have a template of some of the things that they need to do to promote the said product.
Yep. Makes sense.
And also like target the most influential of the celebrities that say yes to only them. The other part is more on the second, how do you know, the mechanisms, and I think that definitely hire better talent to look into like some of what's going on.
I love that for supporting the business where it's happening.
The second is start getting an exclusive sales agreement with the factory in China.
Yes.
The third one is create an easy way, like an easy way to tell the difference between a funky duck hoverboard and a fake hoverboard.
Love it. So differentiating the product is huge. I love that.
Like a fake Louis Vuitton.
Yep.
It's a good point, but they're fakes. So how do you make it really obvious that this is a fake one? And then also look into patents and finally look into automations to handle some of your sales cycle from inventory to customer relations.
Yep.
And that's
yeah. I mean, I think the concept of being super selective with those influencers you're going to partner with is spot on. It was a huge detriment to our business. We got all these influencers hitting us up, right? And we just really struggled to be disciplined with who to work with, okay? And it felt like everyone was more or less equal, right? Wiz Khalifa, Ryan Lochte, heck it, we'll just give them both one, right? Because they're both saying they're going to promote us, and that sounds great, right? But having the discipline to know where that line stops, right? There's got to be some sort of line for how many free hoverboards you're going to give, right? That's spot on. That's a very, very smart way of going about it based on where we're at, okay? And the other suggestions were good too, but that one really resonated with me. Okay, so I'm assuming you guys don't want to hear what happens next, right? That would be most, right? We'll cut it? Okay. Kidding. Okay, here we go. Buckle up. It's about to be crazy. All right, here we go. So, what happens next? Well, those China problems we were talking about, they persist and worsen. How, you might ask? Well, our factory guys would literally lie to our faces, okay? They would tell us one date when we're going to receive our product. And then that date would go by. And then they'd tell us another date. And then that date would go by. And then another date. On average, guys, at a minimum, the average delay of receiving our said product was over 4 weeks from the time they originally said it was going to show up in New York. Okay? 4 weeks later is when it would actually show up. You combine that with these 12-hour time zone differences where My 9 a.m. here in New York is their 9 p.m. So when they want to speak at their 2 p.m., oh, that's my 2 a.m. Convenient. Love that. Love 2 a.m. calls. Good channel, right? Yeah, not so much. And then you combine that with like these really incredibly difficult, I would say incomprehensible dialogues that you have with them. You know, conversations over WhatsApp or Skype where literally you don't know what the hell they're saying to you. I have no idea what the hell they're saying to me. And they're just telling me one date, and that date just keeps going by, and it goes by again, and then voila, we're 4 weeks past due from the time we're supposed to receive our product. So really, really difficult language barriers as well. How else did those problems get worse? Well, we had angry customers calling us, yelling at us over the phone, like the beautiful image in the background here. These early adopters who crave owning new products first, right? We know about them, we've heard about them, right? These early adopters, that's who was buying our product. They wanted to tell all their boys and all their friends, all their family members, I got this funky duck hoverboard first before you, right? They crave that. And so these customers don't give a shit that we fucked up our inventory and supply chain. Do you think they really care? They want their freaking hoverboard right now. Why? Because they just spent $1,500 on it. They want it right now, okay? And so they were just calling us every day, yelling and screaming at us over the phone. How else did it get worse? Well, we had these real customers, these early adopters who bought our product, and they would dispute their payment with their credit card company. Why? Well, when any one of these real customers noticed that we were collecting the funds off their credit card at the moment of the transaction, all of a sudden, you know, we don't have product to fulfill their orders. Maybe not even within like a 3 to 5 day period, right? We're waiting and waiting on product, we're low on inventory, those issues are compounding, right? You're getting the picture here. And all of a sudden these delays cause these crazy, difficult, complex fulfillment issues that now are on our hands. And what happens, guys, after 4 weeks, after you buy something on your credit card? You get your credit card statement in the mail. And you notice that there's that $1,500 funky duck hoverboard that still hasn't arrived. What does that real customer do? They call up American Express and they say, purchase this product, never showed up, I'd like my money back because I'm canceling this transaction, right? And what does the bank do? They go and withdraw those funds from our account, right? So they dispute the payment. Make sense? Yep. All good? Okay. What happens next? How could things possibly get worse? Well, we had fake online fraudsters who are infiltrating our website and stealing honest people's credit cards, just like all of you here, coming onto our website and just stealing people's credit cards left and right. And these freaking fraudsters would do the following. After 4 weeks, when Mary Jane, the honest customer out in California, had her credit card stolen, in 4 weeks she gets her credit card bill in the mail. She sees a $1,500 hoverboard on it. What do you think she says? What the hell is that? I never purchased a $1,500 friggin' hoverboard. I don't know what funky duck is. So Mary goes and calls her credit card company and says, I don't know what the hell this is. I'd like to dispute my payment because my credit card has been compromised. It's been stolen, right, by this fraudster. And guess what makes that even worse, guys? When that person calls their credit card company to dispute the payment, not only did we lose out on the revenue that we thought was real, but now it's fake clearly, right? Not only did we just lose out on the working capital, right, the cash flows of the business that we thought we had that no longer exist because the payment's been disputed, but we shipped a hoverboard to a fraudster at a fake address after the fact. So now we're out on the inventory as well. That inventory that was so precious for all these customers, right? Now we're out on that too. See how those three sort of materialize? So all of a sudden we've got huge credit card processing and fulfillment issues on our hands. You might think it can't get any worse, right? No, you thought wrong. How did it get worse? Well, the banks ended up freezing our money. What do you mean? What do I mean by that? Well, banks and credit card processors, they're called merchant processors in the e-commerce space. They don't like disputes. They don't want their customers disputing payments, right? They're basically underwriting these said payments that take place. The magic of credit card processing on the back end, all your e-commerce shopping. They don't want hiccups. They don't want people disputing payments left and right. That's bad, right? So what happens? Too many disputes equals your account gets suspended equals frozen funds in your bank account. What do I mean by frozen funds? Well, you guys know when like open up a bank account and like there's all those lengthy ass terms and conditions that no one ever reads, right? The little small fine print. Guess what it says in those fine print? If there are too many customer disputes taking place, we as the bank have the right to freeze your account for a minimum of 6 months. So that's exactly what happened. And guess what? The banks froze over $1 million, what was previously liquid funds that we thought we could use to grow our beautiful hoverboard business, was now frozen. We couldn't touch it. Crazy, right? Okay. So, you might be wondering, well, what happened to Funky Duck after the fact? I'll tell you. So you guys also might recall that these devices started having battery malfunctions, overheating, catching fire, all that stuff. Even though Funky Duck didn't experience those issues, they absolutely took place. And as a result of them taking place from these crappy knockoffs that were the ones causing those issues, there started to be enormous amounts of negative press taking place around the hoverboard. Holiday season 2015, day after day, this house burns down due to exploding hoverboard. This person goes to the hospital due to exploding hoverboard. Good Morning America, covering all the nastiness of hoverboards, looping everyone together into one bunch. Meanwhile, we're like a patented device, not doing any harm, but ultimately, right, we got looped in one big umbrella. Really sucked. So in Q1 2016, what happens? Well, the government decided to step in and ban the device. FedEx stopped allowing you to ship the device. Why? Well, the government saw all these freaking exploding hoverboards and they were like, what the hell is going on? Like, this device just came out of nowhere and now people's homes are burning down and people are going to the hospital because of them and catching fire. We've got to like come in with an iron fist and like throw the clamp down on this thing, right? And like put in some legitimate battery restrictions before anyone can start selling hoverboards. And they came to our office to take home a hoverboard. They can go and bring it back to their warehouse and their lab to investigate it. FedEx stopped allowing you to ship them. Why? Because you think FedEx wants a hoverboard just catching fire midair? That wouldn't be good, right? So they, similarly, banned the device. So what happens next? Well, I came to grips with the fact that this product was just the ultimate fad, right? We all hear about fad products all the time. I came to grips with that after 14 months of working at the company, and I decided to leave because of it, right? And then around 6 months after I left, basically all the other employees, those other college interns and whatnot, they returned back to school. Basically, the company just kind of evaporated. And ironically enough, I kid you not, we had a warehouse where some of our hoverboards were in, and like by chance, like that freaking warehouse goes on fire. Are you kidding me? Right? Nuts. So you might be wondering, how could this happen to us? How are we so lucky to experience all these freaking problems, right? I mean, seriously. So first thing I'll call out is the concept of the first mover advantage. What exactly is that? Well, we, as Funky Duck, created this tidal wave of traction, right? And so because we were first to market with this fascinating device, everyone else just coattailed us, right? So we're creating this massive tidal wave of traction, and all those other resellers with their crappy ass knockoffs are just taking advantage of all the other incredible press that had been generated from it. We as a company started experiencing serious amounts of web traffic, huge surpluses in traffic, thousands upon thousands of people coming to our website. And all it took was just a sliver of that web traffic to be these online fraudsters, right? And those online fraudsters are so freaking good at what they do that they turned us into the target. Why were we a target for the fraudsters? Well, because we were selling the premium version of the hoverboard. That patented version of the hoverboard, the one that Kendall Jenner and Justin Bieber are associating themselves with. Why is that bad? Well, because then when a fraudster can infiltrate our website and successfully get a hold of a Funky Duck hoverboard for $1,500, they can make that much more money reselling it because they just got it for free. Make sense? Right? Awful. And finally, we just didn't have the sort of e-commerce, supply chain, technical talent on the team to really make this like that much more of a sustainable business, given the amount of traction that we had generated, right? So those are some of the different reasons why all this, sort of happened to us. Plenty of other reasons on top of that. Let's wrap up with a couple of lessons learned from this experience. So, number one, make sure if you guys are going to be building an e-commerce website one day in the future, you have a fraud detection service built into your website. Why do I say that? Well, the following. When you get into e-commerce, oftentimes a lot of companies, maybe you've heard of like Shopify or WooCommerce, things like that, they have built-in fraud detection in their said technologies, but they don't specialize in that type of work, right? They have some low bar barometers to keep you sort of in check. But these fraudsters are so good that if you can actually get a dedicated fraud detection service integrated into your website, you'll have that much more protection. Guess what? Once we integrated that into our website, we saw zero fraud. It was a little too late, unfortunately, on that front for us. Number 2, have adequate inventory prior to working with influencers. I think we can all come to grips on that's a very smart idea, right? You're gonna launch a said toy company, product company, whatever it might be. You're gonna work with influencers. Make sure you have enough product on hand, even if you're selling for $1,500, to be able to, properly forecast the projected amount of demand. Number 3, have someone in China overseeing your factory's production. What do I mean by that? Well, there are literally consultants in China that will work with US companies to post up at your said warehouse or factory where you're producing your said product and oversee your product's production and report back to you on what the hell is happening and not blatantly lie to your face like our factory was doing to us, right? Another good suggestion. Number 4 is really, really important. I really like to talk about this one. Don't get caught up in celebrity mirages. You guys probably are thinking, damn, it's so cool, you got to work with Kendall Jenner and Justin Bieber and all these people, right? Guess what? It creates this kind of like mirage in your head. What's the mirage? The mirage is the following. You think that everything is honky-dory, amazing, frickin' unbelievable, right? You're working with Kendall over here, Bieber over there, Squawk Box over here, and Closing Bell CNBC, right? But it creates this mirage. You think that everything is frickin' amazing. Things are going so well. Millions of dollars in sales. But guess what? There's all these other miserable problems that are popping up and compounding and getting worse and worse. And like the way I describe it, you solve one problem, 3 new ones pop up. Okay, you don't want to get stuck in that mirage. Number 5, differentiate yourself from the competition. You guys mentioned that. It's a really, really strong point. Why not when we were getting all of our interviews on Closing Bell and Yahoo Finance, right? They were talking about our business. Why didn't we say, we have the patented version of the product, all the other stuff is garbage junk, right? Like, that could have been a nice way to distinguish and differentiate our product, right? We needed to come up with really clever ways of doing it because all of the products looked identical. So maybe potentially being a little bit more forward and a little bit more aggressive with that type of messaging, something to differentiate ourselves in the competition is really important. Finally, number 6 and 7 kind of go together hand in hand, and they are the following. There are serious factors that entrepreneurs must take into consideration prior to just hoping and wishing and dreaming that their business just go viral. Why, might you ask? Because if the proper planning is not conducted ahead of time, before experiencing that virality, right, you can ultimately jeopardize your entire business. And hence, when going viral really freaking sucks. Make sense? Make sense? Cool. Okay, let's wrap up with the following. You guys might be wondering, what I've been doing since my freaking wild west hoverboard situation. I'll tell you. So right after the hoverboard experience, I actually started writing a book, started blogging, started podcasting. I've been basically trying to create like an emerging media brand called When Going Viral, where I cover other interesting business virality phenomenon, you can kind of call it. So that's kind of a little bit what I've been doing. I actually got on like my big boy shoes and got like a real job after all my entrepreneurial endeavors. I worked for 2+ years at a children's education technology company called Little Bits in New York City doing sales. I then got a chance to work full-time at the popular co-working space WeWork on the marketing team for a year right before the pandemic. And these days, I am a sales and marketing consultant for about a half a dozen international companies who more or less kind of hire me to be like their US general manager of their operation here in the States, which I really enjoy doing. And I'm actively pursuing this public speaking career of mine, kind of like an educational public speaking, the same workshop that you guys participated in today that I really hope you guys enjoyed and found fascinating. It's these types of educational workshops and just public speaking that I'm attempting to kind of grow my career with based on this awesome story I have And if you know any said classes, professors, friends of other schools, organizations you're involved in that would ever be interested in having me speak and do one of these cool workshops, and I speak on other topics as well, I'd be more than happy to do so. And so that, my friends, is pretty much my entire presentation. I truly, truly appreciate you listening to my story. If you could do each of the following 3 things here below, I would truly appreciate it. If you could fill out the following survey at that link, bit.ly/3, capital A, GVK, capital AK. That is cap sensitive, so just be mindful of it. Just to tell me how you think I did, I would truly appreciate it. Your feedback is really welcome. If you could follow me and my brand, When Going Viral. So at When Going Viral, at Max Ringelheim on social media. Again, I would truly, truly appreciate it. And as just mentioned before, if you know any organizations who are, or maybe would be interested in learning more about these awesome workshops, and like I said, I do other talks on other topics as well, related to this story and separate from the story, please email me. That's my personal email. I told MGG 315, the big business class that everyone has to take when they're going through business school, that I am here to be of service and of help to you as a former alumni to you guys back. So take down my info. I'll give you my card afterwards, and happy to be in touch. If you guys ever have any questions, and if you know anyone that might be interested in these workshops, I would truly appreciate you putting me in touch and keeping me top of mind. So thank you so, so much. Thank you, Tom, for having me. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. So thank you very much. How are we doing on time?
Got a few minutes for Q&A.
Cool, beautiful. Who's got some questions? And I will be happy to stick around for a few minutes and answer any other questions you guys got. Any questions about the experience or about the story? Go ahead.
Let's talk about WeWork.
Mm-hmm.
So that was described as another fad as
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
How did you get started and why?
Yeah, I mean, so I drank the WeWork Kool-Aid back in like 2014, 2015. I've always been a fan of that company because I grew up in New York, and that's where that company originated out of. Ultimately, I got the opportunity to work there before their tumultuous IPO. That really worked out awfully for them. But it was a phenomenal experience getting the chance to work for that company. They've got really, really rock smart, rock solid, super smart marketers on that team who built this awesome co-working space brand. The company was basically bailed out by their investment banking institution, SoftBank. Unfortunately, as a result of that bailout, me and 2,500 other people lost their jobs. But that's what brought me back into the entrepreneurial waters, and I had a chance to do full-time work in a corporate environment for 3 years, and what it taught me is I don't know all that much. There's a lot of shit that I thought I knew that I didn't really know all that much about, and so it was just a fantastic opportunity to have a manager, have a boss, understand corporate dynamics, right? Working with employees, delivering projects on time, all that good stuff. So it's just been a very helpful 3 years of corporate experience that rounded me out, now for this next stab at entrepreneurship, just being a little bit more wiser. Make sense?
Yep. Sounds
Cool. Any other questions? Did your hand up? No? Did you guys enjoy it?
Yep.
Yeah? Found it interesting? Who had a hoverboard when they were younger? You guys are somewhat young. You had a hoverboard?
Yeah.
Have a funky duck?
Probably not.
No? You had one of those cheap knockoffs, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Catch fire?
Not yet.
Okay, good. Don't use it. I promise. It's not a good idea. Who else? You had a Henry?
I didn't have.
You did? You had one?
It was probably fake.
It was right fake. Yeah. Got a $1,000, didn't you?
It was for Christmas, but I don't think my parents bought one for 15. Santa Day.
It's understood. I get it. Awesome, awesome. Any of you guys working on any entrepreneurial projects right now? Or are you sort of like sniffing out the entrepreneurial space by being in this class? What are you working on?
I am starting a tea company.
A tea company?
Yeah.
Do you like tea?
I love tea.
You love tea, okay,
Yes,
very cool.
I love coffee too, but I just really found a
Very cool.
passion in that.
What's the name of the tea company?
It's called Rava Tea.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you started yet and you're selling it, or are you trying to get off the ground?
Yeah, I actually, it kind of like goes off your story. It's starting faster than I expected.
Okay.
Not with celebrities, obviously, but
Okay.
just with people
people that support me and they are really excited about it, so.
Amazing.
Just making sure I have the amount of product I need.
Yeah, did this
That's
help
the
try
lesson.
and put a few things in perspective, hopefully?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Where do you get your teas from?
Well, I kind of shop around locally. There's a local herb and spice shop that I get a lot of bulk things from, but I also do some online things just because I want the product to be high quality and I'll get it wherever I need to.
That's awesome. Very good for you. Yeah, I mentioned the Panache competition for all of you that are interested in entrepreneurship. I would strongly suggest checking out that competition while you're an undergrad. In the previous class, someone was asking about sort of risk tolerance and everything. You guys are super young. This is the perfect time for you guys to be experimenting in entrepreneurship if it's something that you have an affinity towards, and the ability to fail often, but then fail fast and not have any ramifications on your life because of how young you are right now is something that I would strongly encourage if you're thinking that this is a space that you want to be involved in. And hopefully, stories like this just educate you, not necessarily turn you off from it, just give you a sense of how awesome / how frustrating it can be at times to know if it's like the right sort of pathway for you, because it's not cut out for everyone, but it is a beautiful space to be in, a beautiful industry to be in, especially right now. I like to tell people, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, Tom, like we've been living in like almost like a renaissance of entrepreneurship the last 20 years. It's a really great way to describe it. All the Facebook stuff and the Instagram stuff, and now just everything happening online. There's just so much interesting opportunity, and this is a sample of what you can get involved in if you're putting yourself out there.
Just curious.
Yes.
These hoverboards have got to be loaded with silicon, right? And we've got this chip shortage all over the world. What does the supply chain look like in hoverboards right now?
Yeah, so hoverboards are still around, so those bans on the device eventually got uplifted once you could prove that you were selling a kosher, hoverboard that met all the battery said restrictions. In terms of like the demand for them right now, I still work in not the hoverboard space, but the electric scooter space. I can tell you that, trying to get electric scooters from our factory in China, again, it's a patented electric scooter and it's totally legit, so it's another cream of the crop device, and it's a group that I met while I was doing the hoverboard days. Getting inventory is tough right now. We've been dealing with a bottleneck of serious, just shortages in supply and peaked up demand post-COVID. And I saw it with my electric scooter company that I work with presently, and I see it as well with, I imagine it's trickled into the hoverboard space as well, is really the long story short answer. My clients that are in this space of CPG, which stands for consumer packaged goods, like toy products, electronics, etc., certainly have had a tough time the last 6 months or so, maybe call it even close to 12 months.
Anyone remember last week, Thursday, we talked about pitch decks, and I said, what not to end with? What did I say not to end with? It's a simple slide that doesn't drive the point home. See what Max is doing? He's not just ending with a lazy slide that says, thanks, any questions? We've got some calls to action for you guys here. This is going to sit up here for 10 minutes while he does Q&A, right?
Yeah.
We didn't plan that out.
Yeah, if you guys would please fill out the survey. If you've got 2 minutes, I promise it only takes 2 minutes. I've got some really awesome stuff on the horizon with that brand when going viral, and personally that I'd love for you guys to follow along as UB undergrads and whatnot. And like I said, if you ever find a liking for this type of workshop in a future project you're involved in or organizations you know presently, there's my info, and happy to pass out some cards as well if you want to stay in touch. Sound good?
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'll see you back in our normal place on Thursday.